Hello, and welcome back to another historical video about Rising Storm 2. In the previous video I did on a Rising Storm 2 map, I gave a bit of insight into the history of the Battle of Long Tan, and it was due to the fact that the movie Danger Close, the Battle of Long Tan, was about to come out in theaters. I hadn't seen that movie yet, of course, so I could not really comment on the historical accuracy in its relation to the map. I can do that with a different movie, the 1987 movie Hamburger Hill by John Irvin, and that's what I'm gonna do in this video. I'll tell you a little bit about the history behind the Battle of Hill 937 and compare it to both the movie and the map in Rising Storm 2. The Battle of Hamburger Hill, or Dong Ap Bia as it's called in Vietnam, can actually be connected to two other maps in Rising Storm 2. The hill is located in the A Sol Valley, and there is of course a map called A Sol in Rising Storm 2. But that portrays the battle between the American and ARVN troops on one side and the People's Army of Vietnam forces on the other side in 1966, and not the battles in 1969 like the one for Hamburger Hill. The other map in Rising Storm 2 you can relate to this battle is Apache Snow, as the battle for Hamburger Hill was part of Operation Apache Snow. But historically that map is not very accurate, as it's based on the Winterwald map from Red Orchestra 2. So I won't focus on those two maps in this video and instead just talk about Hill 937, the number of which meant the height of the mountain above sea level. It was a normal American military designation for hills like this, and they can be found in many other locations and in other conflicts as well. As said, the hill was part of the A Sol Valley, or the A Sol Valley as the Americans pronounce it, which is located close to the demilitarized zone between North and South Vietnam, and therefore of high strategic value. In the valley, battles had been fought before, and since the PAVN had won some in early war, they could use the valley as a base of operations throughout the Vietnam War. After the Tet Offensive of January 1968, American strategy in Vietnam had switched from search and destroy, focusing on making lots of enemy casualties aiming at bleeding them dry of manpower, to clear and hold, focusing on engaging logistic supply routes of the PAVN in order to prevent large-scale attacks by them, and on winning hearts and minds of the South Vietnamese people in the meantime. Although there is some discussion as to how big this change was, the battle for Hamburger Hill was aimed at destroying the PAVN presence in the A Sol Valley and thus frustrating logistic routes into South Vietnam from the north, disrupting supply to the Viet Cong. Units that fought in this battle were the 3rd Brigade of the 101st Airborne Division Air Mobile and the 3rd Regiment 1st Infantry Division of the ARVN forces. On the other side were fighting the PAVN forces, and part of the 29th Regiment were present the 7th Battalion and the 8th Battalion. From 3rd Brigade 101st Airborne Division there was 3rd Battalion of the 187th and 1st Battalion the 506th. On the 10th of May 1969, action started in the vicinity of Hill 937. In what Colonel Conmee called a reconnaissance in force, the Americans moved in from two sides. 1st Battalion, the 506th, moved in from the south and pushed towards the summits of both Hill 937 and the smaller Hill 916, and 3rd Battalion, the 187th, moved in from the northwest, while ARVN units would secure the highway leading through the valley. So if south is below on the map, then this would have been the route of 506th, and this would have been the route of 187th. All units were ordered to cut off escape routes into Laos, of which the border was pretty close to Hill 937, about 2 kilometers off. In the movie you follow 3rd Squad 1st Platoon, 101st Airborne, which is historically accurate, as they did participate in the battle. In-game, you probably fight as the 187th, as you don't assault Hill 916 at all, as the 506th did, and of course you only attack the hill from one side, instead of several, like in reality. As we have just seen on the map, it's probably inverted, so you play as the 187, but you follow the attack route on Hill 937 from the 506, and you just don't attack the other hill at all. Point A on the map has a hamlet to which there are no references in historical sources or the movie. In the movie, the Americans have a short firefight in the dense jungle, which on the map could be located here. The short firefight in the movie is typical for the first contact the Americans had in the area with the PAVN forces. The Americans were planning on destroying the PAVN forces and not letting them escape into Laos. The PAVN forces had a ring of concentric bunker positions on the hill and decided to fight it out instead of abandoning the hill just like that. The 11th of May. In the movie, it's suggested by the military command that there are only enemy stragglers on the hill, they call it Hill 937 in this scene for the first time, with small arms. On this day the weather is rainy, which we can't see on the map of course, as there can be only one type of weather on it. A rainy setting would have been a good thing though, because the weather played a significant role in the battle, as it prevented effective close air support on several days of the fighting. In the movie we also see the commander in a Huey helicopter flying over the area of operations. In game you can have a commander of course, but if he is in a helicopter it will probably not be the Huey, and on this map he could only be in either the Cobra or the Loach, the latter being the more logical choice. From the 12th to the 15th of May, the men are fighting uphill. In the movie you can see them do that too, and they fight in medium dense forest, a bit like this. There are lots of trenches and bunkers, and the ground is muddy because of the recurring rain showers. In-game, the forest is only medium dense in the first sector, while in reality and in the movie the forest is more present on the rest of the hill too. The trenches and bunkers are portrayed nicely in-game, and they did play a large role in the real battle. Here we can see a couple of these trenches. And there are also some resupply locations. And there are also some bunkers and tunnels, which were also on the hill in real life. Here you can see a tunnel which ends up in some kind of a bunker. The bunkers were so well constructed, with cover overhead, and in big numbers, and with prepared fields of fire. Here's another nice example of a bunker constructed by the People's Army of Vietnam. The Americans were forced to use infantry attacks and could not rely on fire support by artillery or close air support. Of course, these things were used, but often the infantry had to call it in and then retreat so as to not get hit by friendly fire. Unfortunately, many incidents of friendly fire were recorded during this battle, and they account for a part of the casualties during this fight. In the movie there's a scene where the Americans get mown down by MG fire from overflying Hueys, and there's a napalm strike on the side of the hill. In real life, the friendly fire came mostly from Cobra helicopters instead of Hueys. In-game there are no Hueys on the map, and there is a Cobra, which also gives friendly fire from time to time, as I can tell from my own experience. The commander can call in artillery and napalm too, and also the Spooky, although I couldn't find any sources confirming those were actually used in this battle. The weather was improving over these days, and as the Americans progressed further up the hill they could see the stumps of the trees which were once the forest covering the hill. These trees were now totally obliterated by the artillery and airstrikes. The earth looked red, and the top was visible. And this is what most of the maps looks like in-game. 16th and 17th of May. On the 16th of May, Associated Press correspondent Jay Sharbat learned of the ongoing battle on Hill 937. traveled to the area and interviewed Commander Zayes, in particular asking why infantry, rather than firepower, was used as the primary offensive tool on Hill 937. More reporters followed to cover the battle, and the term Hamburger Hill became widely used. In a later interview with Arthur B. Wiknik, a veteran of the battle, he told the reporter that he had seen the name Hamburger Hill for the first time on the summit of the hill after the battle, on a sign attached to a tree stump with a bayonet, but it could be that soldiers had been using the term before. It was a reference to both them being ground up like hamburger meat and to Pork Chop Hill from the Korean War. In the movie we see the soldiers fighting lower on the hill than on the previous days, suggesting they have been pushed back. And there's a scene with a camera crew on the 17th, with a journalist wanting to interview the sergeant of 3rd Squad 1st Platoon, where the sergeant tells the journalist to "unass my AO", or to remove his body from the area of operations. And this "unass my AO" quote is one of the more famous quotes from the movie. This is quite historically accurate, as after Sharbat arrived on the 16th, more reporters followed, as told earlier. In-game, this aspect of the war is absent for pretty obvious reasons. The 18th of May. On this day, the US brigade commander ordered an attack on the hill from two directions again, from the south and the north. Company D of 3 187 came within 75 meters from the summit. They suffered heavy casualties, including all of their officers, so they had to retreat. The commander, in a light recon helicopter, tried to coordinate the movement of the different companies, but an exceptionally heavy thunderstorm made fighting impossible, as visibility became next to nothing. Zayes thought of breaking off all operations on the hill on this day due to the heavy casualties, but instead he sent in 3 fresh battalions who were supposed to relieve 3 187. Honeycutt, 187's commanding officer, refused to leave though, so 187 stayed on the hill with a skeleton crew, reinforced by one of those fresh battalions to have at least some manpower to capture the summit. In the movie there is heavy rain on this day while the soldiers proceed into the barren part of the hill with the tree stumps. The weather is historically correct, but like before can't be portrayed on the map in-game. I noticed that in the movie the Vietnamese were holding off the American advance using M60s, and while I can imagine that some Vietnamese had captured weaponry, the fact that all MGs were M60s probably means that the crew had no RPDs or other Dekhtieriev MGs at their disposal. 19th and 20th of May. On the 19th, 2 fresh battalions were airlifted into the northeast and southeast base of the mountain. So again, if north is up, then they were airlifted into this area and into this area. They would attack the next morning. 2 hours of close air support and 90 minutes of artillery fire preceded the attack. The Arvin 2nd Battalion, 3rd Regiment 1st Division almost reached the top first, but were ordered to withdraw because of friendly artillery fire coming in. After they followed this order, it was 3 187 getting to the top first, which was a bit sour for the South Vietnamese as they were deprived of the honor of having the first troops on top of the summit this way. In the movie, the troops start from the tree line where there is still some forest and then move into the tree stump territory, only to end up at the top after heavy man-to-man fighting and with only a few men remaining. In-game, this part of the map is the biggest, so contrary to real life and the movie, the game focuses on the fight in the barren part. After the US took this hill, they vacated it soon after. They took it on the 20th of May around 5 in the afternoon, and they vacated it on the 5th of June, making everyone wonder why the hill should have been taken in the first place, and confirming the uselessness of the war for many Americans at home, who were protesting the war since the Tet Offensive, and some of them even before that. The presence of the camera crews on the 17th and after helped fuel these sentiments. 3 weeks later, the PAVN forces would reoccupy the hill without a fight. The after-action report of the Battle of Hill 937 was very optimistic and mentioned that there were so few Allied losses, but still the United States suffered 72 dead and 372 wounded and 7 missing. South Vietnam lost 31 dead. The North Vietnamese claimed that they killed and wounded at least 1,500 opponents, but they themselves lost at least 630 dead, which was measured by body count, and 3 captured. The number of Vietnamese able to escape into Laos, or killed in ways where their bodies were irretrievable after the battle, is still unknown. To conclude this video, I would state that the film sticks closer to reality than the game, because the film has more possibilities to show different weather conditions, for example, and also the game focuses most on the battle on the barren top of the hill with the tree stumps, while most of it was more downhill in the thick and medium dense forest, at least according to the historical sources. The role of the Arvin is largely ignored in both the film and the game, although you can play as the Arvin in campaign mode, of course. The fact that the attack on the hill was made from 2 and sometimes even 3 directions is not visible in the movie because you only follow one unit, and in-game it isn't portrayed because you only attack from one side, as we have seen before. That's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you haven't seen the movie Hamburger Hill, go see it soon. Please post in the comments if there's something you missed or if you have any additional info on this battle. Thanks for watching and have a nice day.